was like this light bulb went off. It's like, I can use my skills to teach people how to do things. And that just awoke this new passion in me.
Hello, I'm Tammy Hahnemann, a maker, digital content creator, someone who works in many different mediums with a true passion for helping others find their creative spark. I also really love to connect others who have something to share with those who want to learn. Welcome to Heart and Hands of a Maker, the creative journey. If you found us, chances are you're on a quest for creative inspiration. Maybe you're feeling stuck in an artistic rut, dreaming of turning your passion into a flourishing business, or maybe you're hoping to see your work in print or grow your online presence. Well, my friend, wherever you are on your creative journey, you're in the right place. Let's get to it. Today we're talking with Jill Bartlett, the creative force behind Scouterwear, a boutique dogwear company, and Thank Dog We Made It, a learning portal where you can learn to knit and sew your own dogwear. We'll be discussing Jill's creative journey, explore her business evolution, and hear all she has coming up next. It's time to grab your favorite beverage, settle into your creative space, and meet Jill. Jill, welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I'm very excited.
I am very excited. Jill and I have had a wonderful time getting to know each other over the past few months, and I'm excited to delve into all that's led her to where she is today and learn more and have her share more about all she has coming up. So Jill, why don't you take us through your maker journey and give us a little peek into all that's gone into getting you to where we are now?
Well, it's been a very winding path, let me say. When I was a child, we and I have two sisters that are very artistic as well. And we were really encouraged to be artistic, and we drew a lot and we made a lot. We were encouraged to do crafts. And I have to tell you, my family received a lot of macrame and hand knit things. Oh my God. I mean, it's just every year, oh, another macrame, how lovely. But it was just, to me, that is where I started from. I started from working with my hands, but there was always this thing in the back of my head that that was the craft, that was the hobby, and then there was the career. And I was very much encouraged by my mom, particularly, to get a degree and follow that path. And so I did. And I got a Bachelor of Applied Design from an art university. And primarily it was graphic design and 3D animation. And honestly, when I was in school, I hated it. It was all about advertising and very corporate. And it just didn't feel right. But in my fourth year, they invited me to work with a local university here, University of British Columbia, with the dentistry department. And I got to take this 3D animation and use it to teach people about TMJ. It was with the dentistry department and working through how TMJ starts and blah, blah, blah. But I got to work with these 3D models, and it was like this light bulb went off. It's like, I can use my skills to teach people how to do things. And that just awoke this new passion in me. So that kind of led me on that path, this corporate path. So when I graduated, I started a company with a partner. We started an e-learning company, and this was a long time ago. This was about 15 years ago. And e-learning was not a thing. Honestly, it was just getting out there, and people were taking their PowerPoint presentations, throwing them up online and saying that's e-learning. And we were very much, that's not e-learning, because you have to engage the learner. So we had a great 15 years of that. A lot of national and international clients. We had a real kind of niche area that was in the environmental and taking care of the environment. So that was fun. But after 15 years, I was really burnt out. I had hit the wall, and I had never even had time. I was very, very stressed and never had time. I was just working around the clock, and I just remember craving to do something with my hands, just to knit or to sew, or I also do woodwork. And I kept saying to my partner, I just want to use my hands. I just want to do something with my hands. And so I ended up walking away from the company, took about a year off, and I got a dog. And started making dog clothes for her because I wanted to work with my hands. So I started making sewing dog coats first and then knitting dog coats. And people started kind of stopping me in the street and saying, hey, where did you get that from? And being the serial entrepreneur that I am, I thought, okay, let's start a company. So that's how Scouterwear began. And yeah, that was the beginnings.
And really being open to opportunity, because you could have easily stayed on the original path, took the easy route, and just finished your degree. I admire that bravery in you.
Oh, thank you.
And how wonderful that it did lead you to something that was more meaningful.
Yes.
And really struck a chord and gave you an opportunity to do something. And I think the transition is very interesting, that you took from your degree of working on dental modeling and turned that into e-learning.
Well, it was just about teaching people. And honestly, that was, I think, what really got me inspired. But there was the other thing that happened at the same time is I was in a biology course. I was going to become a medical illustrator. That was my path. And I was taking this biology course, and they were teaching about meiosis and mitosis with pipe cleaners. Remember those old wires that had all the little bits on them, little soft fuzzy things that you clean your pipe with? And so they were teaching meiosis and mitosis with that. And I thought, this is just weird. This is not right. Nobody understands it. It's inside the human body. You can't see it. So actually, as my graduation project from Emily Carr, where I was going to university, I did a whole 3D animation on meiosis and mitosis. And so I showed that whole process. But that was, to me, that was the thing. It wasn't about, showing what's going on in the human body, but more so showing people how to do things and showing what was difficult and finding an interesting way of doing it. Now video is just, we're on video right now. Video is everywhere. But when 15 years ago and 20 years ago, when I was in university, video was not, we didn't have video on the internet. So you had to find, like, this would have been coming out on CD-ROM or on video. It was not coming across your screen. So now it would be, I'm using more video to show people how to do things.
I think the other highlight for me is that you just kept embracing technology, because as you mentioned, like, video was not a thing. And if you did video on the internet, like, people couldn't watch it because the internet speed didn't support it. Like, there was no purpose to have video as part of e-learning. Like, it was not a good use of anybody's time. And video was very expensive. It was still using equipment and technology that was so expensive. So, but over time, as you have evolved your business and transitioned even yourself, you have embraced technology and have continued to really understand and navigate all that is available to you. And I'm always impressed when you make it seem like, oh, then we did this. And I'm like, wait, what?
A whole new avenue.
Yeah. And you're layering on all these things that are just so, in some ways, to some people, intimidating. So is there anything that you can offer to our listeners to think, like, it's just something to help them be inspired to know that technology is really your friend. It's not something to be afraid of. Don't be afraid to ask somebody for help.
Yeah, there is. Well, when you mentioned ask somebody for help, I mean, my gosh, Google, searching the internet is anything you want to know. It is out there. And it never ceases to amaze me how incredibly generous people are with their knowledge and how much there is out there with information. So number one, don't be afraid of technology. There's information out there to be had, and people are just dishing it out. So that's number one. Number two, don't be afraid of technology, because it's just buttons, right? And if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. Just try it.
Just push the button. Just push it.
Yeah, just push it. Just try it. And, the other thing about it is that, there's nobody's really watching you when you first start out, right? So you can try things out and fall flat on your face. And not everybody's going to start laughing, because generally speaking, nobody knows you're out there yet. So
Nobody's really watching anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And also the trend, I have to say, one of my faults these days is, well, number one of my biggest faults is I am a perfectionist. But it comes down into my video. When I'm producing video, I am a perfectionist, and that's not the trend anymore. The trend right now is sloppy and just grab your camera and just go live. And that's really hard for me because I have all the lighting, and I've done video professionally for too many years to just grab my phone and go live. So I think that's another thing that's in people's favors right now, because it isn't about being perfect anymore. It really is about genuine personality, being out there, just being live and being yourself. And
Yep, I agree. And I think for all the trouble that COVID and the pandemic brought to our world, I do think that has helped break down some of the barriers for people, is the approachability and being vulnerable and being authentic. I do think that those are things that have helped people really accept that we're just humans. We're not this overly produced, high production TV company.
yeah.
We're just people, and we just want to offer and help and share and whatever it is that your video is conveying. And you're so right. The internet is just ripe for answers. Of course, you have to navigate your answers carefully and make sure they're reputable.
So, yeah, and as you said about the pandemic and being authentic, I think one of the things that also came out of that is that people got really tired of mass-produced things. And and also we weren't getting mass-produced things. Things weren't coming over from the other countries anymore. We were having to make it here. And I think people started to embrace makers and people that were actually, like, I like to call it slow sewing and slow knitting and slow making. It's like, it's something that people are doing with their hands. And this is an amazing time for being a maker, because I think people are so much more open to that right now, and they're willing to spend more money because they know the money is being spent locally and not going off to other countries. It's stuff that's happening within our countries and within North America. And that's such an amazing time to be a maker right now. I see so much more petware now than I ever used to. Another thing that happened in the pandemic is everybody got a dog. So a lot more happened around dogware. And so there's a lot more competition. But on the other hand of that, I do find that people are willing to pay more money for something that's made by hand and that lasts. I mean, that's the thing, is it's quality. It's, when it's handmade, it is, you're seeing every imperfection, and you fix it, you make it properly. And whereas it's mass produced, there's so many things that just slip in the process.
And I think the beauty of what you've been able to do, understanding more of your business model, is you really tailor to the size dog, or to the dog size, however way you want to say it. I look at the outerwear that you're making, and I'm in awe of the design, let alone the fact that it fits. So what
thank you.
Share with everybody, like, how you kind of came to that place where you were able to do something and create a line of dogwear.
Well, to be honest, I came to creating custom fit dogwear from a lack of experience. When I first started out, I didn't know how to measure a dog. I didn't know how clothes fit a dog, how different breeds altered, how those clothes needed to fit, and also how a dog moves within the clothing to be comfortable, and making sure that it's functional and comfortable for the dog. I didn't know any of that. So out of a lack of confidence, I measured every dog that I was getting an order from. And in hindsight, that was a mistake, because not a great business model, because essentially every time I made a coat, I was making a brand new pattern. So it's not, I mean, already it's expensive when it's handmade, but when you start adding in that you're creating a brand new pattern every time, it wasn't the best path. But ultimately, I created my own sizing chart, and that is, for people that would be getting into the dogwear world, I would say, you want to make enough try with enough different size pets and things like that for either for free for friends or for a very minimal price, just so you can get the practice and get your own size chart. And then you tell people to order from that size chart.
So I think even though maybe initially your business model wasn't smart or a good business model, it actually gave you the business model you needed to be able to then be successful. So you had to go through that to get to the other side.
Yeah, and I'm now teaching people how to make their own dogwear, either sewing their own dogwear or knitting their own dogwear. And where I think all those years of fitting custom fit coats and measuring all those different dogs is I kind of think of myself as a bit of an expert in measuring. And so now I can really impart that knowledge to other people and teach people how to measure their dog and where it's really important to have extra room and, what area, what breeds, and how you work with the different breeds and how you build a dog coat or a sweater for a boxer, as you said, with these big chests. And I just got an order for 2 whippets, and whippets are the same thing. They have these massive chests and these little tiny waists, and no coats fit them. I mean, there are lines of coats manufacturers that make whippet coats, but you cannot go into a store and buy a whippet coat. So I learned a lot about measuring, and I think that's one of the big skills that a lot of makers that want to start making their own clothes for their dogs, that's the big point that freaks them out. That how do I measure, and then how do I actually transfer that to a pattern? Like how does that fit, and how do I alter the pattern to make it fit my dog? So those are skills that I learned over the years just doing that.
Amazing. And then now you're translating that into e-learning again.
Yeah, I think, well, there was the whole custom, I created this niche, sadly, of making the custom fit. So that's been a hard niche to jump out of. People expect me to measure their dog. And so there was a little bit of, okay, I kind of want to go in a different path here. And then as you mentioned, it's like this, I kind of came full circle. I really still wanted to embrace that original passion of wanting to teach people. And I thought this is a really great opportunity to teach people all that knowledge. We were talking earlier about, you can find anything on the internet that you want to figure out, but it's overwhelming. And to be able to just come to one place, I have created a portal called Thank Dog We Made It. And it is a place, I'm just starting to add things to it. It's a growing portal. And the whole concept behind it is to help people to make their own dogwear and how to measure their dog. I have, free videos on there to step you through, and a workbook to walk you through how you measure your dog and then how you relate that to a pattern. And that, to me, this is very exciting. I'm really excited about where I am right now. It is teaching people how to do that. I ran a membership for a year where I did have train people and show people. I have 6 different patterns that I taught them how to make. And just that beginning stage when they were not even sure like what fabrics to use and how to measure their dog, and they were just overwhelmed to the point where they were actually coming up and designing their own clothes by the end. Wow. It's just such an amazing transformation to watch that journey that path that they went along on their own, and that feeds me, and that is so exciting. And so to be able to marry these 2 loves and passions of mine into one area has been such a great gift to be able to do this.
That's wonderful. And and we will have all of the information on Jill's course. So be sure to check out the show notes page after you listen to this episode. What would you recommend or offer to those in an earlier stage than where you are?
Right. Couple of things. One of the biggest lessons I think I learned was just being really clear about what business you want to be in. Like, take a look at where you are right now, where you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then that end point, what does it look like? And are you still passionate about doing that thing? One of the things about being a maker is we love making, but when you're making over and over and over the same thing, it's not fun anymore, So like I think that's so important to look at the whole picture and say, am I going to still be passionate about what I'm doing? And I'm not saying that you can't make things over and over and still be passionate about it, but there is probably a path that you could do that you are going to continue to be passionate about that. You've got books to take care of and marketing and social media and all sorts of things. So if you can still just be doing the making and having other people help you do the other things at that 10-year mark or that 5-year mark or whatever it is, that is what I think that I think is a really important thing to just look at is what's the big picture? Where do you see yourself going? And, that I'm around to that point now, but I definitely got to a point where I was just sewing and knitting, not as much knitting as sewing, and just being behind the machine all the time was challenging for me. And for my big picture, I didn't have a big picture of having a big company and having tons of employees. I really wanted to keep it small and boutique, and handmade and not manufacturing. So I did choose a path that I wanted to follow that was not about big brand, just something of boutique. But that is an important choice to make, and try to think that through before you just dive in.
No, that's a good point to make. And I know I have to imagine that I'm not alone in that goal planning. I have done all of the goal planning, all of the books, all of the things that help you work through what your goals are going to be. I am terrible at it. I'm like, I don't have time for this. My mind goes this way, it goes that way. And I'm like, I just want to make stuff. I want to teach people. I want to help them have an experience. I want to help them feel good about themselves. Like, I don't need to set up any goals. So
right.
Your advice is good one, but it's not easy.
No.
So part of goal planning that is important is really valuing what it is you're doing and believing in what you're doing, that it can be something in 3 or 5 or 10 years. That's probably also
Absolutely.
part of it for me. It's like, I'm just making stuff. I'm not going to 5 years from now, who knows? I'll be making some, right. I don't know. How do you get out of your own way?
Yeah, well, I think one of the big things that what you just said sort of touches on is the imposter syndrome. And not feeling that you are big enough and good enough to make it, mm-hmm. and to follow your passions. And I think one of the things that can happen, and sometimes this is a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing, but what can happen is that you end up following the path that people are looking for and our customers are asking for. And it may not be your passion. It may not be what you want to do. I think it's also really important to listen to what customers are looking for, if you're willing to kind of be open to that, because it does open a lot of opportunities that you might not have expected. But also be careful that you're not following a path that you're not going to end up really wanting to pursue. So there's, that's why kind of looking at that big picture, I think planning, I'm not much of a planner, to be honest, but to plan, I really think that's great advice. Lessons learned is to try to plan, because you will, if you don't plan, you're just going to kind of meander and follow where that river takes you, and it may not be what you want. But that imposter syndrome, getting back to that is like so hard to believe that you are going to make it. And I think you touched on it, is just like being passionate and believing in yourself. And everybody says this, and I think it's true. If you are doing what you really love and you are really passionate about it, you're going to make it, because people see that passion and they get excited about that passion and want to get involved in it. So,
and I think for people, again, speaking for myself, I had to have a day job. Like, there was no way for me to pursue my passion fully, to realize it as a business, because it was what I would do at night or after the kids went to bed or whatever. It was never full time. And mm-hmm. sometimes you also don't have the energy if you are working full time, which I have to imagine our listeners are, there's probably a percentage of us who are full time employees of another company. and you have this dream and this ability and you want to realize it, and it's just hard. Do you have any advice? Because you reached a point of burnout, so you also didn't have the time to make, and that was part of what drove you away from a successful business.
Yes.
Any balancing suggestions that now that you look back that you wish somebody had shared with you?
I think number one is always take time for yourself. And even if it's amazing when I'm totally, just flat out working and I forget to meditate. I'm a big meditator and I do yoga. And if I get to the point where I'm super stressed out and don't have time and I push that aside, I become so unfocused. And it's amazing how little time I have for things. Whereas when I take that time out to meditate, I do it in the morning, first thing in the day. I meditate. I usually do yoga first and then I finish off with some meditation. And it's amazing how focused I am and how I'm able to do things quicker and more accurately or whatever. Like I can get stuff done that I have time to make things and do things with my hands and follow my passion, doing what I want to do, the making stuff. The other thing that I think is very helpful for me, anyways, is planning. I'm a big checklist person, and I'm also a perfectionist. And I can sit down and work at something, like a website or something that not has nothing to do with the making. It's the other side of the business, and I can just go down this rabbit hole and spend hours and hours trying to make it perfect. And I think the lesson that I'm still continuing to work on is to create a list of all the things that need to get done, and then set a date for each of them when they have to get done, prioritize them, and set a time limit for them, and get it done within that time limit or very close to that time limit. So you're not just doing stuff basically that allows you, and it opens up a period of time, which you do need to schedule as well, is the making time, the time for having fun, the time for doing things that make you happy. So to relate that back to someone who's working, do you have time on the weekends? If you have children, do you have time after they go to bed or when they're napping in the afternoon? If you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, do you have time to just block out that is your time? I'm a big fan of Amy Porterfield, who is a online marketing genius, and she creates courses, and she talks about it as tiger time. And it's like you protect that time like you would protect your baby cub. And I love that term because okay, so that's the idea, is that when you're scheduling and when you're planning, you plan time for doing whatever it is going to take you onto this path that's your dream of your business.
And I think that helps us be better people and a better mom and a better wife and a better employee, whatever it might be. I think all of those things, taking time for yourself to meditate or whatever it is that fuels your day and helps clear your head, and then also scheduling time for yourself to be creative. I know I get very guilty of not being protective of my time. I give my time to everybody. And if you interrupt my day and you need my help, I'm all yours. So whatever I was in the middle of, I drop and I just stop and I do whatever I need to. And my portion of the day always gets lopped off because at some point I need to go to sleep or maybe stop and have, a quick dinner with my husband or something. So it is very important. And it's a very good lesson to share and to share and share and share, because it's something that I think inherently, as the person who takes the role of the caregiver of the family, of the household, of your job, we are by nature, many of us just give and give and give and forget to give to ourselves. So
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for emphasizing that.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and I'm the same. I drop everything. Everybody else comes first.
Yep.
And in my scheduling, like if I've got other clients that I've got to work on or family obligations, that always comes to the top. So creating that tiger time is just absolutely essential, I think.
So you mentioned Amy Porterfield. I think Amy is a force in and of herself. There are so many things that she shares and offers to us as entrepreneurs. And I think that one of the things that is fairly new in her world is it take 2 weeks notice?
2 weeks notice. She just launched, yeah, about 4 months ago. The book is primarily around the idea of being an employee, but you don't have to be only that, but basically being in a place in your life where you don't want to be anymore and that you want to create a business, and how you get there, how you get from, like what we were just talking about, in that sense of trying to make the time to build a business. And so, yeah, 2 weeks notice is really wonderful for that. She just creates a lot of strategies and sort of timelines too. She kind of blocks out, you want to start this far ahead of time. And I can't remember how long that is, but she really does. She's got some really great strategies on how to get from there to where you really want to be in being a maker. And she doesn't only talk about being an employee, she talks about being a mom and, getting to the point where, like a stay-at-home mom, where you're just all your life is about taking care of kids. And so she talks a lot about different scenarios, but basically getting from where you are right now to where you want to be. She doesn't talk about makers specifically, but there is a lot in there just about how you get to that point that you really want to be at, and how you make money at it. So
That's wonderful. She is just filled with so much great inspiration and information. Definitely worth checking that out. So as you found your way in transitioning from one business to another, what roadblocks did you encounter, or things that really got in your way?
I think that the main roadblock that has always tripped me up is that imposter syndrome, and not believing in myself, and not believing that others will believe in me. And that's been a tough one to get over. It still haunts me. But I think you just have to believe in your passion, and believe that if you feel this passionate about it, that others will follow. And I think, the advice out of that too is that you're not gonna get discovered overnight, and that's a good thing. Actually, it allows us to stumble, and it allows us to fall flat on our faces, and not everybody notices. But it's not like, to get over that fear of people laughing at you and or saying, oh no, you're doing it wrong, because basically it just gives you some time to do what you want, and so don't worry about that you're not doing it right. That's the other part of my imposter syndrome, I think, that is hand in hand with it, is the perfectionist in me. And it's an exciting path too, because when you do start to get noticed, it is very fulfilling, and it does tell you that you are on the right path and that you're doing the right thing. So,
and I think it's fair to say that it's not based on sales that is what drives you. It's really helping people, empowering people, giving them the skills and the ability to do what they want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, as we had said earlier, I've come full circle. I'm now very passionate about teaching others about what I know, and that passion and enthusiasm for what I do is, I think, really comes across to the learners that are learning from me. And also, I think what I get out of it now is this excitement. I love to see the growth in people, and I love to see that confidence. And the other thing, particularly about knitting, is that it's so meditative, and we're talking about that stress in life and such, and it's something that you can do with your hands, and you feel like you're producing something. You have an accomplishment. You have such a sense of pride, and while you're doing it, you're also just kind of getting into a more Zen-like state. So those kind of things are what I'm really excited now about sharing with people. And that, to me, I'm not really interested in making the clothes, making the dog wear for others anymore. I'm really about teaching people how to do this for themselves. I also see a long-term path of teaching other entrepreneurs how to start their own dog wear business. So that's sort of a long-term thing. But right now it's just about getting people to learn how to make it for their own dogs and maybe for their friends' dogs, and, start small.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And really then the rest just falls into place. If you're doing something that you find joy in, the rest just falls into place.
Absolutely.
I believe as long as you can give it the runway, as you mentioned, you need a little bit of runway to get everything moving in the right direction and
yes,
have room to fall flat on your face.
Yeah. Lots of room for that.
And get up, dust yourself off, and try again. Well, what is it that gets you up in the morning, other than the yoga and the meditation, which sounds delightful?
I think the thing that gets me up in the morning is being creative, having an outlet for the creativity, and one of the things that, because of this direction that I'm going in now with the training and teaching people how to do things, is that I'm creating patterns. And so I'm making patterns a lot more frequently than I used to. My sewing business, and when I was creating custom fit dogwear, I had like 3 different patterns that people were just ordering over and over. So I was making the same thing. Whereas this now allows me and has opened up this whole avenue for creating new things. So one of the projects, one of my little pet projects that I'm doing on the side is I have a vlog that I'm starting on YouTube for. I'm working through this knitting book and trying all these different patterns, lace patterns and cable patterns. And so I'm trying them out on video, and then I'm turning them into a pattern for a dog sweater, or a dog dress or a dog shirt or whatever it may be. And that is just allowing me this incredible creativity. And that is what gets me up in the morning, is having that outlet for a brand new, like being creative and exploring that creativity that is the spark that starts my day.
I would say I'm a good hack. Like I can get through a pattern, I can get through something, and I can make it. But there's so many things that you don't know that it would be hard to be successful that first time out. So then I just don't do it.
Right. Well, that's part of what I enjoy doing, is like I have lots of videos. How do you sew? One of the things when I'm sewing my dog coats, the outside layer doesn't stretch. The inside layer is typically either a mesh or fleece, so it stretches. And how do you do that? So there's a lot of tricks that I've learned over the years that I've turned into videos and teaching people how to do these things. And then also the other thing about talking about fabrics is, that I have to be creative. I have to be constantly designing new things. One of the things that I've learned is that you change the fabric, you change the coat. So I have one design that I often use. I call it the cozy coat, which originally was made with waterproof outerwear and a fleece liner. But then I turned it into the Marley Davidson, which is a knockoff on the Harley Davidson jacket. It's got, orange band in the middle and white on either side, and it's made out of pleather. It's the same pattern, but it is a completely different look and a completely different coat than the cozy, because it's just got a different fabric. And then I created a cool dog coat, which is made out of mesh on two layers of mesh, and then the inside is just 100% cotton, like diapers cotton. And you just throw that in a sink of water, like a bowl of water, and wring it out and put it on your dog, and it will drop their temperature down to, just right down to being comfortable. Again, same pattern, different fabric. So it's about trying to kind of be constantly creating new ideas with different fabric, and then also just getting over the fear of working with those fabrics. And you get over that fear.
And you're helping empower people. I think that is wonderful. And that in itself is a gift, that you continue to just share your knowledge, your experience, your expertise, and in a way that is so comforting and empowering.
Thank you.
Oh,
it brings me great joy.
And where can people find you? What is your website?
Scouterwear.com. So Scout,
I
don't think I ever mentioned it, but the dog that I got after when I first left my career was Scout, and so I named the company after her. So it's Scouterwear, so it's like outerwear for Scout is how the name came about. So that's how people can remember it, scouterwear.com. And from there, you will find the courses and the whole Thank Dog We Made It portal, where I have a couple of upcoming courses that are starting in January. One is for teaching people how to sew their own dogwear, and another one is how to knit your own dogwear. And I also on there have a whole lesson, as I mentioned earlier, for how to measure your dog, and just a video step-by-step walk you through it.
So everybody's in for a treat, and I will definitely put all that information in the show notes.
Super.
I thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the show. Heart and Hands of the Maker, you are an amazing guest, and so in line with the title and why we're here is to really help people on their creative journey, help inspire them and find ways to navigate all the different ways that we can go as creatives and makers. So thank you, Jill. Thank you so much for your time and sharing so much of your journey with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So I will just close here and say thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and it's such a joy for me to meet people like Jill in my journey, and I am thankful to have a way to bring her to you. So I hope that there are things from this conversation that help you on your path and help inspire you to take the next step, maybe get out of your own way. And so that's a wrap on another episode of Heart and Hands of a Maker. It's been so wonderful sharing this time with you. Thank you for tuning in. And if you want more, be sure to head over to tamarahaneman.com/podcast for all the show notes and information to be sure you never miss an episode. Subscribe or follow, depending on where you get your podcasts. Thank you so much.